Hi everyone, Loup here for White Oak Rail. You know, I do a lot of my videos out on the main line, but that doesn't mean I don't find branch lines really interesting. There happens to be one right close to me that I find very intriguing. It's the R.J. Corman West Virginia line, former Chesapeake and Ohio Loup Creek branch. It actually started out as the Kanawha, Glen Jean, and Eastern Railroad in 1895, and they're still hauling coal 126 years later. So let's take a trip down this old branch line and see what we can see.
I'm a big believer that railfanning is more fun with others, although I appreciate doing it alone. In that spirit, I brought my girlfriend along for the chase. I got word from a friend of mine that there was activity on the line on Saturday, and a recent Trains magazine article told me it's usually a 2-day job and there are usually no Sunday runs, so on Monday I went out in search of the train. I learned the train is usually cut into 3 sections of roughly 30 to 40 cars and taken from a mine in packs to a yard in Mount Hope, West Virginia, where the train is made whole again for the trip to Thurmond. We drove through Mount Hope but nothing was there, so we kept going to packs and we just started down the road when there it was at the first cut. Since the rails carry a 10-mile-per-hour speed limit and the road's 35, it wasn't hard to get back to Mount Hope and set up. I ventured into a town park to rescue the switching of the locomotives for the trip back to packs, and after only about 5 minutes, here he came. He cut off from the train, pulled past the switch, and then went back to the mine for the next cut. We headed off to lunch since it was around 1 p.m. and we couldn't find a place to film between Mount Hope and packs.
Everybody decide to reels down. Hang excited, double check the reels off. Back one. Double.
There was one shot we really wanted. A nice S-curve on the line just outside of the small outpost of Harvey, West Virginia. We split up on the other side of the curve and waited. After several minutes of waiting, my girlfriend asked if we should drive up the line to see where he was, and I agreed since I didn't really know and I thought it would be useful information. I dropped my antenna on my scanner on the way back to the car, and the search for it caused us to miss the shot. But at least we got the train. With the shot missed, it was on the Thurmond for us, even though we knew we'd get stuck at a grade crossing. I got out to film while we stopped, and ordinarily I wouldn't show this, except that it really illustrates the noise these cars make going down grade. Just listen to this. We were finally able to get ahead of him just outside Thurmond, and I set up at an angle I admit most people don't take. But I didn't have a ton of time to get set up, so I took it. Listen to the horns on these engines echoing off the mountain. I always loved hearing the echoes of whistles and horns in the mountains. Once we got into Thurmond, I waited to see if I could hear anything from the CSX dispatcher in Jacksonville, giving clearance to the RJ Corman crew to take the main. I heard it, but only after holding my scanner up to my ear. Yet the coal train currently on the main line made it hard to hear. I did hear the train with 110 loads and it would be backing onto the number 1 main instead of pulling into Rush Run siding just outside of town. I'd never seen a move like that before, so I had to stick around for it. Now let's take a look at the power for this train. CSX 3055 is a GE ES44AC-H, built in 2012. It is painted in the CSX YN3B paint scheme with the CSX boxcar logo. The second unit, CSX number 321, is a GE AC44CW built in 1998. It is painted in the CSX YN2 paint scheme, which to me is what I think of when I think of CSX paint schemes. The YN in both stands for yellow nose. Once the signal improved for him, he started out. 10 minutes later, he was on the main line and ready to start the backup move. Slowly but surely, he backed down the number 1 main and tied down. The RJ Corman crew had done their job, and I figured it would be a while before a CSX crew came and took it out of town. I was proven wrong by my friend Cam and found it going through Fayette Station later on that day. It's worth noting Cam was not a rail fan, and had no idea I was following that or any trains that day. He was just in the right place at the right time. A week later, I was back in Mount Hope and planning to film the intro for this video when I saw a string of loaded coal cars sitting in the yard and I knew what that meant. I set up and waited, and sure enough, here he came. They were just about set for the trip to Thurmond and I was all set up for the show. What really made this catch cool was the former Southern Pacific SD42-2 tunnel motor built in 1978 still on the job. He got left at the RJ Corman office in Harvey while the train continued on to Thurmond. I decided to chase and try to get some shots I wasn't able to get the previous week. The first of those was on my side of the S-curve. About 10 minutes of waiting, and here he came around the corner. I maintain that everyone should stand by a train and watch it go by. I find this as enjoyable as anything. There aren't many things I'd rather be doing than standing trackside. I was able to get ahead of him and drove on into Thurmond. I've always wanted a shot of a train crossing the bridge, and I finally got it. This is that shot on the bridge. See what I did there? Fun fact, this is the only rail highway bridge in the state of West Virginia. Thanks to Trains Magazine for that fact. The power on this train is a pair of big 6-axle GEs. While needed for the run, it's still a bit weird to me to think of big 6-axle rail units on a branch line. But that's exactly what you need to get a 100+ car loaded coal train moving. The battery was running low on my scanner, so I didn't bring it with me, and therefore I couldn't hear him call dispatch and get the plan. He performed the same move as the last time, backing the train onto the number 1 main and tying down. I set up near my car for a different angle to move. As he tied down, I wrapped up another great chase. I have always wanted to see this run in action, and these 2 days were both great. Just another day on the railroad in Fayette County, West Virginia.
Man, that was fun. Getting a chance to see coal on this line 121 years after it opened and in the era of a, you could say, declining coal market, it's really special. I've been wanting to see this line for a long time in action, and I'm glad I got the chance. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already done so, like the video if you like it, and leave a comment down below. Also, while I post videos on YouTube, I also write articles about what I see on the railroad and any thoughts I have. I wrote one as a companion for this video. Please feel free to enjoy that. The link is in the description. Until next time, this is Lucas Berry for White Oak Rail. Please be safe, everyone.